Okay, good morning, friends. We're learning Mishna Berura, continuing Mishna Berura Daf Hashavua. We're learning Siman Kuf Mem Vav. We're in the middle of Seif Beis, and we're learning maybe somewhat of a surprising halacha that once the Krias HaTorah begins, one is now to talk, even b'divrei Torah, even bein gavra legavra, even if you already finished the parsha, shnayim mikra v'echad targum, even if you already heard Krias HaTorah. There are those who are matter to learn quietly, which the Bir Halacha is matmiya, which is Shitas HaTosfos and the Rosh, which the Bir Halacha asks, how does it help to learn quietly? It's very nice, you're not disturbing anyone. What about your personal obligation to hear Krias HaTorah? The Shibbolei HaLeked, says the Bir Halacha, already asks this question, and that's why the Shibbolei HaLeked rejects Tosfos and the Rosh. Says the Chavetz Chaim, Lulei de Mistafina, I would say that Tosfos that says you're allowed to learn, he's talking about if you already heard Krias HaTorah, but you're not allowed to learn out loud. You're allowed to learn quietly. And it's a little bit mashma in the rush that even quietly, maybe it's only mutter if it's Torah sayum nasai. But the Bir Halacha ends off that it's not clear what this opinion is that you're allowed to learn. The Shibbolei HaLeked rejects it, and the Bir Halacha says probably, or it may be speaking about we already heard Krias HaTorah.
How does this affect the person's obligation of Krias HaTorah? If he's learning the parsha, isn't that the chiyuv?
No. What do you mean learning the parsha? From a chumash?
Just listen to the words?
You have to hear it b'tzibur. Not told. There's no mitzvah to learn the parsha. The mitzvah is to hear Krias HaTorah.
I thought that's limud HaTorah. I thought that's why we do it.
It is. It's a type of limud HaTorah, barabim. But you're not yotzei.
To listen to words robotically and not really learn it?
No, to listen to the words of the Torah. Nobody said you have to listen robotically.
But if you're not learning it, if you're not understanding what...
That's why you need to do Shnayim Mikra before you hear it, so that when you hear it, you have an understanding of what it's about. But you're not fulfilling anything by learning it. You're not mekayim in the midst of Krias HaTorah. How you mekayim Krias HaTorah? You're not hearing it from a Torah. You're hearing it from the Art Scroll Schottenstein edition. That's not... It's a very nice publication, but that was not the Takana of Moshe Rabbeinu. So the Shibbolei HaLeked rejects it. The Bir Halacha says he must have heard it earlier. Now this heter to learn quietly of Yesh Matirim Ligrois, some say it's only Lemisha Torah sayum nasai. Meaning, says the Mishna Berura Sivkatan Tes, Hainu da'afilu heicha de'ika asar d'tzaisi, that is, even if there are 10 people who listened to the Krias HaTorah, einoi moter lomai be'es HaKriya, is not allowed to learn during the Kriya. Meaning, even if 10 people are listening, you still can't learn be'es HaKriya unless it's Terasim Nasi. Kiyam b'shei Terasim Nasi, she'einoi mevato shum shami limudai, that you are never mevato anything for learning. Okay. Let's continue on in the Mechaber. V'yesh matirim. There are those who are mater. L'misha koidim sheniftach Sefer Torah. That before they open the Sefer Torah, machzir panav, you turn your face around. Umare atzmai, and you show yourself she'enoi roitzel l'shmaya Sefer Torah, that you don't want to listen. Ella likrois, you want to learn. Umascha likrois, meaning if you show that you're not subjecting yourself to this tzibor, you're not part of the tzibor. You make facial expressions that show you're not participating, then it's okay. Now again, I assume the Bir Halacha would ask the same question. Very nice. But what about your personal obligation to hear the Torah? And maybe the Bir Halacha would say also, it's talking about where you heard Krias HaTorah already. You're coming to a bar mitzvah. You already heard Krias HaTorah. You have to come to this bar mitzvah for Shalom Bayis. The guy's your boss, so you have to sit there in the shul. You already heard Krias HaTorah. Are you allowed to learn? If you put your talis over your head, and before they start the laning, you turn in the other direction. So then you're showing, you did this already. Says Mishnah Berura, L'misha kaidem tam shitazu disrele shekivan shekfar hischal b'mitzvah metchila. This opinion holds, since you already began the mitzvah first, v'ra'u oisai anshe basic shvar kava atzma lumoid, and the people in the shul, they saw that you already established yourself to learn. Einoi mechuyev lifsak, you don't have to interrupt. Avlam loy hischal metchila, if you didn't begin originally. Ein l'shum adam v'afilu mi she'Torah yumnasei lumoid b'shum oifen klal. Nobody, even if you learn the whole day, you cannot learn during the Krias HaTorah. Okay, now we're coming to another point. Until everything we said so far of what you're not allowed to learn, even Ben Gavra LeGavra, is Gemara, Mishnayis, any other different limudim. But v'likroi shnayim mikra v'echatayim b'shaz Krias HaTorah shari. But to be maver sedra, you could be maver sedra during Krias HaTorah. Do you have to be up to where the Balkar is up to? No. According to this opinion, who is, let's see the Mishnah Berura. L'chol hadei shenizkru el. According to all the above mentioned opinions, kivan shume'ein mashakar shleil tzibur, since it's similar to what the shleil tzibur is reading, af al pi she'ein kairei mamish, even though he's not actually reading, but pasuk shleil tzibur kairei. Umikal makom gam zeino mutar rak b'lachish. Even this is only mutar silently. Shaloi levabel das hashoimim, so as not to confuse the listeners. Here also you could ask the Bir Halacha's question. Okay, I understand it's me'ein what the tzibur is doing, but what about your personal obligation to your Krias HaTorah? So the Bir Halacha says, V'likroi shnayim mikra, look at the Magen Avram who brings to the Shumas Hadeshen, that it's mutter even if you don't have 10 people listening to the Sefer Torah, because you're oisik in that inyan. Says the Bir Halacha, the Shumas Hadeshen is not mukhrach at all. The raya he brings from the Arzarua that it's mutter even if you don't have 10 people. No, it's not talking about if you don't have 10 people listening. But says this guy's reading in the Chumash, sometimes other psukim. He's not listening to the Bal Korei. The Bir Halacha says Hayotzim midvarenu. Again, I don't know how he's really answering the question, because how does it help that 10 people are listening to Krias HaTorah? What about your personal obligation to hear Krias HaTorah? Unless this opinion holds, you don't have a personal obligation to hear Krias HaTorah. The obligation to hear Krias HaTorah is on the tzibur. And every individual has to make sure that a tzibur is participating in the kriya. So once there are 10 people, I've done my job. The Bir Halacha concludes Hayotzim midvarenu that the Shumas Hadeshen has no proof from the Arzarua.
Yes.
1 second. Then he brings in the end that when it comes to Shemona Esrei, one person could gather 10 people, even though they davened, and say Baruch Hu and Kedusha. But But we don't find by Krias HaTorah that one person who didn't hear Krias HaTorah could gather 10 people who already heard it. I don't know why the Ber Halacha is not bothered by the same question. Why is it that one guy is allowed to learn quietly? What about Krias HaTorah? So there the Ber Halacha says he must have heard it. What about this guy? Unless this opinion holds that you're Yotzei Krias HaTorah, if during Krias HaTorah you're doing something that's in the ballpark of Krias HaTorah. That's what it sounds like. That this opinion holds that the chiyuv of Krias HaTorah is that during Krias HaTorah people are, they're doing a Krias HaTorah kind of activity. They're paying homage to the concept of Krias HaTorah, even though they're not actually listening, and it sounds like even if you don't have 10 people. Now the Mechaber says, V'chol zeh einoi inyan leParsha Zachar. This is not going to help you for Zachar or Parshas Para. Shehem ba'asar midairaisa. There you need 10 people midairaisa. Shetzach lechavein ulashama mipi hakorei. What's the best thing to do? V'hanachain shebachol haparshas roi lamedaktek b'dvarav lechavein datoi ulashamam mipi hakorei. Someone who is careful in their maisim should pay attention to each word of the Bal Korei. Do you have to? What you have to do is either listen or be Maver Sedra. Are you allowed to learn Gemara? It's Aser. Are you an Avarian if you learn Gemara during Krias HaTorah? Yes. Are you allowed to, according to Mishna, are you an Avarian if you talk with people and learning Ben Gavra Legavra? Yes. Are you allowed to say Mazel Tov Ben Gavra Legavra? Yes. Are you allowed to say Mazel Tov, how big is the baby? No. Are you an Avarian if you say how big is the baby? I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe. Ask your according to Mishabura, you're not allowed to do it. Are you an Avarian if you're Maver Sedra during Krias HaTorah? No. No, it's Shari. Is it Nachain? It's not Nachain. Is it Shari? It's Shari. The Mishabura says, so according to the opinion that you're allowed to be Maver Sedra, according to all the above mentioned opinions, since it's similar to what the Shel Tzibur is doing, even though you're not actually mamish up to that pasuk. Even being Maver Sedra, it's only if it's quietly. Now all of these kulais do not apply to Zachar and Para. Now the Mechaber here says that Para, not only is Para Dairaisa, a minion is Dairaisa. Ayin Beber Agra Pri Chodesh V'Shari Ephraim Shekasu the Eino Yikar. It is not a primary opinion. Uparshas Parahu midrabanan. Parshas Parahu is only midrabanan. Mikamakam le'inyan zeh. But still, regarding this mistabra de gamla de tulay makalina kal kulay sanal, we're not going to observe. We're not going to be able to rely on all of those leniencies. What do you do if you're Mil Shemana Esrei and they're up to Krias HaTorah? Says Reb Chaim Kanievsky, you could listen. And in fact, the Chazon Ish was mafsik in Mil Shemana Esrei to hear Krias HaTorah. However, in the Sefer Dinim and Hanhagos, it brings from the Chazon Ish that you shouldn't do it l'chadchila. The Chazon Ish did it, I don't know, but he wrote that l'chadchila you shouldn't do it. Reb Chaim Kanievsky in the Isha Yisrael says, also, Sheba oidei mispalel ein lasois kain. Rav Vosner says it's pashut and it's aser. What if somebody was Mesiach Das from Krias HaTorah and he didn't hear a word? It says in the Siddur Agra, Lo yatsa yidei chayvas hakriya klal. Rav Moshe says in the Tshuva, Ein loy takana. But if 10 people spaced out during Krias HaTorah, there is a takana. Anyway, they're chayiv to take out the Sefer Torah and lean again. We mentioned this yesterday. So if theoretically you turn to the next guy, were you listening to every word? He says, I'll tell you the truth, I missed a word. And then you turn to Beryl, did you? He also missed a word. Then they're mechuyev to lean again. Now I never saw this done, but it just highlights the point that you need to listen to every word of Krias HaTorah.
If a person reads Zohar along with the Valkyrie, it's not Yotze?
We'll see. He reads it along.
He says it quietly to himself, the same like Kilo he's being Maver Sedra.
We'll see. We'll see about how to be Maver Sedra with the Bakar. We'll see that on Monday. Rav Shlomo Zalman says you are Yotze, and you're pater from going to another minyan. Why? Rav Shlomo Zalman says Krias HaTorah is a chiyuv on the tzibor. If you miss some words, you're still Yotze. Rabbi Yosef says we're soimech. We can be soimech on the opinions. It's a chayvas hatzibor. Rabbi Tzion Abba Shaul says, yeah, you could be soimech on that, but it's midas chasidus to go hear Krias HaTorah in another shul. Rav Moshe, you're mechuyev to hear Krias HaTorah in another shul. If you miss a pasuk, what if you blew your nose and you missed a word? And the Rav Moshe says, no problem. Go to another shul and hear the parsha. It's not a problem. Rav Shlomo Zalman said, you don't have to do it. Rabbi Yosef says, you don't have to do it. Rav Moshe, you're mechuyev. What about on Monday or Thursday you missed the word? You don't have to hear it again. As long as you heard 3 psukim, you're Yotze. Yom Tif, as long as you heard 3 psukim, you're Yotze. By the way, remember we brought the opinion of Tosfos that you could learn quietly, and the Bir Halacha asked, okay, I understand you're not disturbing anyone, but what about your personal chiyuv? So the Emek Bracha says, that's the shaila. Do you have a personal chiyuv, or is it a chiyuv on every, or is it just a chiyuv on the tzibur? This opinion is that you're allowed to learn quietly, says it's a chiyuv on the tzibur. But the conclusion of the Mechaber is that it's not a chiyuv on the tzibur. It's a chiyuv on the individual. And therefore you have to hear the whole thing. And you can't miss a word. Which is how Rav Moshe concludes. But Rav Elyashiv and Rav Shlomo Zalman say, I guess, if you missed a word, you're soimech on the opinion that it's a chiyuv on the tzibur. Rav Moshe says, what do you mean you're soimech? That's not the halacha. That's not how we conclude. The point is, if you need to come to shul and listen to Krias HaTorah and take all the parsha sheets, put them in a plastic bag. You can read them when you're home. Then you say, no, why would I read them when I'm home? Okay, so we for sure shouldn't read them in shul. That's for sure.
Recording stopped.